Welcome everybody. I'm Andrea Miller and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at Community Hospitals and Wellness Centers in Bryan. And I'd like to welcome our live audience and viewers at home to Live It Ancient Christmas. And for the third year in a row, I am so pleased to have Santa all the way from the North Pole as my sous chef. Thanks for coming back to join us again, Santa.
I am an official registered cookie taster and other goodies as required.
Well, Santa, we have a different food processor here this year today. So
Merry Christmas to me.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So Santa loves using food processors. That's Santa's favorite kitchen tool. Right?
I believe my favorite kitchen tool is my hand to go from here to...
Yes. Yes. So you might be wondering, ancient Christmas. We are going to be featuring ancient grains today. And as our tradition, we usually try to do something sweet for our Christmas episode. So we're going to feature some sweet applications of the ancient grains. Today we're going to use two ancient grains, amaranth and buckwheat. Both of these, even though wheat is in one of their names, both of them are gluten-free. Buckwheat actually is not related to wheat at all, so they would be safe for a gluten-free diet, so long as none of the other ingredients that are in here have gluten, which I don't think they do, looking around. So, so these would be, if you're on a gluten-restricted diet or know anybody that has celiac disease, these would be good recipes to take to those family gatherings to make those of your loved ones that have allergies to gluten feel included. So let's get started. We're going to do two different recipes today. And actually, we have them right in front of us, so you can see actually what we're going to make before we show you how to make them. We're going to do so we're actually calling it chocolate mousse. So we're making chocolate mousse, also known as buckwheat pudding.
We have lots of mousse up north.
Yes. Lots of mousse. This is a different kind of mousse.
Oh.
So, but I'm sure you might have lots of chocolate mousse up north too. Yeah.
Elves love chocolate mousse.
I bet they do. Yeah. I love this chocolate mousse, not only because it's delicious, but it's filled with lots of healthy ingredients as well, and a little bit that are not so healthy to make it fun. So, but that's okay. So the first thing we're going to do to get started with our buckwheat pudding is we're going to start cooking our buckwheat. Now, this is not actually the whole buckwheat groat that we have today. We have, it's almost like the equivalent of a steel cut oat, I would say, for buckwheat. It's kind of chopped up a little bit. But this is what you can find locally. I wanted to feature something that you could find locally just by going to the grocery store. We found this at Chief. It would be, I think it's in the gluten-free section actually, with all the Bob's Red Mill stuff in one of those packages. And it's actually the Bob's Red Mill Creamy Buckwheat Hot Cereal. So you could use this in like just your morning hot cereal if you wanted to. But we're gonna make it sweet and use it in our chocolate mousse. So the first thing we're gonna do is turn on our heat. And I have a cup of water. I'm gonna put that in. And then we're just gonna add our buckwheat right in. And Santa, I'll let you give that a stir maybe. We're not gonna catch Santa on fire.
You keep me warm.
Yes. So this should cook pretty quickly. It might take a few minutes here, but if you're using a whole buckwheat groat, I guess, which is a big round, I don't know, I guess I can't describe the shape of it. Have you ever had buckwheat, Santa?
I have had buckwheat.
You have
I've
not.
also met buckwheat, but a little rascal.
So anyway, if you're using a whole buckwheat groat, it is going to take a little bit longer to cook than our creamy buckwheat cereal. This should cook in about 5 minutes. So I just have the heat on. It's going to come to a boil, which is actually already simmering a little bit. So it should take about 5 minutes to cook. But while we're letting that simmer, we can talk about some of the benefits of buckwheat. So buckwheat is primarily carbohydrate, lots of carb in buckwheat, but with that carb also comes a lot of minerals and antioxidants along with it. So it's a healthy form of carbohydrate. I know a lot of people that have diabetes or other medical conditions might try to steer clear of high carb foods, but there's actually one interesting antioxidant actually, which is actually also a form of a carbohydrate called what was it called? I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it because I thought it was interesting. It's called D-chiroinositol. And it yeah, mouthful. But I was actually impressed to find that it can actually make cells more sensitive to insulin, which is actually, would be good for somebody that has diabetes. So while carb can sometimes be scary for people to include in their diet, especially if they have medical conditions, including some, but in small amounts, portion controlled amounts, may actually be healthy if they're the right types of them. So how's our buckwheat looking here?
Starting to boil.
Oh yeah, it's getting thick too, thickening up. The other antioxidant in buckwheat it's called rutin. And it may help to decrease inflammation, and it also may help to decrease blood pressure and help to keep blood clots from forming. So that's going into our pudding today. Those are good things, right, Santa?
I believe so.
Yeah.
The last thing you need on Christmas. Rolling boil.
Do you like to eat oatmeal, Santa?
I do, every morning.
Yeah. Well, I love oatmeal too, and sometimes oatmeal, it just gets boring, right? So you could substitute this for your oatmeal. What do you like to put in your oatmeal?
Fresh berries if they're available.
Yeah, me too. That's what I have almost every morning is oatmeal with fresh berries. But you can substitute the buckwheat for that. Also, we're going to use another ancient grain, amaranth, today. And you can use amaranth as a hot cereal as well. So those are other uses. If you go out and buy some amaranth and buckwheat, that looks great. We're going to turn off our heat. Okay. Thanks for keeping an eye on it, Santa. So as you can see, it absorbed all of the water in there. All the water's gone. So now we're going to add our other ingredients. Santa, I'll have you pour in our milk. We have just a half a cup of, I believe it's 2% milk. You can use any kind of milk you want in here, though. You can use a plant-based milk, from skim to whole. I don't really care. Whatever you want to use. We're adding 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. So this adds a lot of antioxidants to our chocolate. And if you want to keep on stirring, Santa, I'll let you do that. I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips. So that'll make it really rich and delicious. My first go-round with this recipe, I did not add the chocolate chips. And I thought it tasted just fine, but other people told me it tasted like drywall. So.
Do these folks regularly taste drywall?
I don't know. That's what I was wondering too. I've never even tasted drywall, but apparently it was that bad. So,
oh my.
I liked it though. I like a lot of things. We're also adding some peanut butter, and that's going to just make it really nice and rich. Thanks, Santa. And we're going to make it a little bit sweet too. You can play with the type of sweetener you want to use in this recipe. I'm using honey today, but you could use maple syrup. You can use regular white table sugar if you want. I'm going to add that in. Brown sugar. You could also, if you want to make a lower carb version, add like an artificial sweetener like Splenda or Truvia or Stevia. Any of those would work because we're just trying to sweeten up just a little bit because it is a chocolate mousse. So that looks perfect. We're actually just going to take it off the heat, and we're going to set it aside and let it cool. So the end product of this recipe, we're going to whirl it around in our food processor, and then we're going to fold in some whipped topping to lighten it up. And you don't want to put your whipped topping in a hot pudding because it'll just melt. So we need to let it cool down for a while before we add that whipped topping in there. So we'll set that over there by it. Not too close.
Not too close, it'll get hot and melt like a marshmallow.
But we'll set it over there to remind ourselves to add that in. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, I'm calling it a better Buckeye.
Better than the original Buckeye?
Better than the original Buckeye.
You do know where you are, don't you?
I do.
This is Ohio, correct? I have a long schedule, but
Yes, you are in Ohio now. I know you've been like
Buckeyes
all
are
over
important.
Yeah. So the better Buckeye, because there's no sugar in this. Now there is something to make it sweet, so you will not be unhappy with the taste of it, but we're using dates to make it sweet. So what dates are a fruit. We're using a fruit to sweeten it instead of a sugar. And then the ancient grain we're adding is amaranth, and we're gonna do something special to our amaranth today. One of my favorite things to do at home with my kids, I love to pop amaranth. And I call it, to my kids, I tell them it's fairy popcorn.
fairy popcorn.
Fairy popcorn. So we're gonna make some fairy popcorn today. And the first step in making our fairy popcorn.
Can we make elf popcorn?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? We're calling it elf popcorn today.
Just today.
Just today. Later it can be fairy popcorn, but today we're making elf popcorn.
Thank you.
The first step in making our elf popcorn is we have to get a really, really hot skillet. And it helps if you have a glass lid on your skillet because it's gonna, well, first of all, you need a lid because it's gonna pop everywhere. And it looks really cool. So I'm excited for you to see what it looks like when it pops. But so it goes everywhere. And also you wanna see when it's done popping. They're trying to, our catering staff was trying to do this and they weren't using a lid at first and they learned quickly that you needed a lid. And then they had a lid that you could not see through and they were having to open it to see if it was done and it was not working. You need a glass lid. So it's getting really, really hot. Here's our amaranth. It's really teeny tiny. So like it is way, way smaller than popcorn. So don't expect that you're going to get anything close to the same size as popcorn.
I would be impressed.
Yeah, so it's not gonna expand that much. So how I see if it's hot enough is I just put a couple in there. And when they start popping right away, then you know that it's hot enough to cook your amaranth. So I don't even see them popping quite yet. So it must not quite be hot enough. Okay, they're starting to pop now. You want them to pop almost the second you put them in that pan. Otherwise, if they sit there and start to heat up, they kind of get a burnt taste. So if they're in there and pop and you get them out of the pan really quickly, they're not gonna start to burn. So they're starting to pop, and you can actually see some of the first ones in there. They're kind of brown. No oil. It is completely dry. You need it to be a dry skillet. Thank you. That was a good question. So no oil, dry skillet, hot. Needs to be very, very hot. Okay, so they're starting to pop a little bit. So I'm going to take it off the heat. And you want to have a bowl close to you that you can dump your popped amaranth in. The other place that this can kind of go wrong is if you put too much amaranth in at one time. You need every single one of those little kernels to be touching the very, very hot skillet. So I only put about a tablespoon in at a time. So I'm just going to dump a little bit in. And I have my lid ready. And you can see they're popping already. There they go. Do you see that, Santa? How cool is that?
Tiny little snowballs.
Yeah. Little teeny tiny elf popcorn. Okay, so I actually have some here already popped so we can save time. It really should, and it does get kind of steamy, so hopefully we don't set off the smoke alarm. I had people coming in here as I was testing it. What's on fire? So, all right. So you can see it turns from yellow to kind of a white, toasty color. So pretty neat. So we're going to set this aside for a second.
They say there is strength in numbers. In Bryan, we have always taken pride in supporting our Golden Bear student athletes in all of their sporting endeavors. The Bryan Athletic Boosters now have a chance for you to get into the game. If you're Bryan proud, it's time to become Bryan strong. Whether you were a BHS athlete, are raising a BHS athlete, or just love supporting our Bryan High School athlete, this is your chance to be part of the BHS sporting community. Talk to any board member today on how easy it is to join, or contact us at 419-636-4536.
Some people say that Bob Stanton and Santa might be the same guy. Just like Santa, Bob makes people really happy when he hands them the keys to their new Ford car or truck.
Both are jolly guys who love kids and cookies. Plus, when was the last time you saw Bob and Santa in the same place at the same time?
He's got a point.
If a new Ford or Lincoln is in your holiday plans, come see Santa, Bob San at Bryan Ford Lincoln.
Keeping children safe on Ohio school buses is a priority for the Ohio State Highway Patrol. This is Lieutenant Bob Ashenfelder of the Defiance Post. Safety on the roadway is a shared responsibility. Even though motorists are required to stop as a safety measure, children should always look both ways before crossing the street and remain alert to any sudden traffic changes. Together, we can make this a safe school year.
For over 40 years, Bryan, Ohio has been home to the only import vehicle repair specialist in Northwest Ohio, Suburban Auto. Whether it's an Asian or European vehicle, Suburban has the knowledge and experience to keep your import or domestic car running strong. Do you have a hybrid vehicle that's acting up? Suburban is your one-stop hybrid repair shop. Don't be fooled by the one-size-fits-all repair shops. There is no substitute for experience. Come see the import repair pros, Suburban Auto.
Here at the Williams County Veteran Service Office, our mission is plain and simple. We are here to serve our local Williams County veterans and their dependents. We are staffed with trained service officers who have the compassion and understanding to assist their fellow veterans in obtaining all federal and state benefits that they have earned. Additionally, we provide emergency financial assistance and transportation to VA medical centers. So if you're a veteran or a dependent of a veteran, stop in today and see how we can help you at the Williams County Veteran Service Office.
Last year, over 390 people in Ohio were killed because someone chose to get behind the wheel impaired. This is Lieutenant Bob Ashenfelder of the Ohio State Highway Patrol's Defiance Post. As part of the patrol's ongoing effort to contribute to a safer Ohio, troopers will continue an increased focus on impaired driving arrests in 2018. But we can't fight this battle on our own. We need your commitment to plan ahead by designating a sober driver or call for a ride. If you drink, don't drive.
BMU high-speed internet is now cheaper than ever. Now just $30 a month, that's $100 a year in savings. Get it with BMU Extended Basic Cable for all your sports, movies, and reality shows. Plus local programming, including high school sports and community events. Not to mention a local help desk and support team for when you need them. Now for the fine print. We don't have any. No contracts or hidden fees. Call BMU today at 419-633-6100 or visit us on the web at cityofbryan.net.
And we're going to get going with our other ingredients in the food processor. So we're going to put our dates in there, and the dates that I have here do have pits in them, but they're really easy to take out. So awesome. So we're going to throw about 7 dates in there. They fit pretty easily. So dates are a really good source of potassium. So, yes, we're adding, technically it's a natural sugar. We're adding some sweetness here with fruit, but we're also getting lots of vitamins and minerals along with it. So in my opinion, this is better for you. Oh, there's no pit in that one. Where did it go? Okay.
Christmas magic.
That one grew without a pit. A healthier version than adding sugar. So how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Okay,
Correct.
Perfect. So, and then while we're here, we can also add our peanuts. So we have half of a cup of roasted peanuts, and I'm just gonna put that in there as well.
Dry roasted, salt roasted,
Preferably.
honey roasted.
Well, technically, you could probably use anything you wanted. And actually, I might have you put that on there first, because that, yeah. Okay, you got the blade. Is the blade on? We'll check the blade to make sure the blade's on. Perfect. Santa's good with a food processor.
This year.
This year. And then we're gonna just go ahead and we're gonna pulse those in our food processor. The one that says pulse.
Oh, sorry. I'm in a hospital. I was,
Yes, yes, he's in a
confusion.
hospital, so he assumes that we're actually taking our pulse. And actually, you can probably just go ahead and turn it on, because it's going to take a little bit, yeah. Unless you were going to play Jingle Bells again, Santa. There we go. It would not be a Christmas live-it without Santa playing Jingle Bells on the food processor. And you just want to make sure it gets all kind of crushed up. Let's take a look. So that's pretty well, those are pretty well crushed. So yeah, we can leave that there. And then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of creamy peanut butter. Perfect.
Every year we fight with the food processor. And the blade.
Get it. Just set it, yeah.
And now I broke it again.
Nope, you're good. Okay, so we have a 1/4 cup of creamy peanut butter. And Santa, I'll let you add the vanilla without getting it on your white Santa gloves.
Do you know what makes them Santa gloves?
What makes them Santa gloves?
I wear them. All gloves are Santa gloves when Santa wears them.
That's right. All right, and then we'll pulse it again. And it's going to kind of start to form a ball. Perfect. I think we're good. And then we can take this off. And I'm actually going to scoop all of this into a separate bowl here. Okay. Thank you. And then we're going to roll them into our Buckeyes, and we don't want to get Santa's gloves dirty, so I will probably be doing the rolling. I might put some gloves on for that, though. So it should be pretty sticky here. So Santa. What's that? Oh, we forgot. You know what? We'll stir that in. Thank you. We forgot to add our amaranth. So yes, you would usually add the amaranth in there. About a 1/4 cup. Yes, this is the popped amaranth, yes. You can eat, yeah, so if you wanted to eat this for a snack, you could. Again, you're not going to be able to pick it up like popcorn. So
this is diet popcorn, one at a time. Eat tweezers.
Yeah, so if you were going to like eat it like popcorn, you're going to need a spoon. How I like to eat it, doesn't that look like cereal to you?
It does.
Like a nice, I mean, 1 ingredient cereal right here. Add some nuts and dried fruit, pour some milk on it, and you have a really healthy cereal. So that's another great way to use your amaranth.
Because I know you can't smell it from here. It does smell like toasted popcorn.
It does. And that's why I love it in this recipe, because it gives it a nice toasty crunch. If you can't find amaranth, because it is kind of hard to find, I used to be able to find it locally, and then all of a sudden I couldn't any longer. If you can't find amaranth, just substitute some, like toast some quick oats in the oven, like put them on a dry cookie sheet in the oven, oats. Let them toast in the oven for a few minutes, and then just use those if you can't find the amaranth. But I am sure, you know, we live in a day and age where you can find anything on Amazon, or online somewhere. Bob's Red Mill, I actually looked on their website, and you can order it on their website as well. So, and again, you can do lots of different things with it. Put it in this. You can make a elf popcorn cereal. Also, from the first year that you were a sous chef on Live It, we made granola bars in that episode. And there was oats in the granola bars. You could swap the popped amaranth into that granola bar recipe, which you can find on our Live It website.
The reindeer prefer the oats.
Yeah. I don't know. Have they tried amaranth?
I think they might need a lot more than oats. They're very tiny.
Okay.
Reindeer are very large.
Yes, okay, all right. Well, we can, and it might take a while to pop all that amaranth for them, huh? All right, so we have that stirred in. I just have a tray here, and I am going to just roll a couple balls here just to give you the idea. So you're just going to roll them kind of like you would a Buckeye. And ideally, you would let these sit in the refrigerator or freezer for a couple of hours to kind of harden a little bit before dipping them in the chocolate. But you know, being as we don't have a refrigerator, we are just going to dip them in the chocolate without refrigeration. So the refrigeration is just going to help firm them up a little. And actually, Santa, if we want to we can get started with our chocolate melting right here. We have a double boiler, so we can just pour a little bit of water there in the bottom. We don't need all of it, probably. Maybe a teeny bit more. And then I just have a bowl that fits into the pan right around the edge, but it's not touching the water. And we're going to let that start to heat up. And we're going to use that to melt our chocolate. So we have about 2 ounces of chocolate. We can go ahead and just put the chocolate. We also have a little bit of coconut oil just to make it a little bit easier to work with. So just, what is that, like a teaspoon? Half a teaspoon probably. Yeah. So we're going to get the chocolate melting as I roll a couple more balls of amaranth, peanut butter balls.
Better Buckeyes.
Better Buckeyes.
They say a watch pot never boils. Everyone look away. Everyone look away.
So Santa, going back to Jingle Bells here, you were telling me something interesting about the song Jingle Bells before we started the show.
Jingle Bells is a Thanksgiving song.
Yeah.
But I like it better at Christmas. Listen to the words. They're going to eat a big meal, dashing through the snow, one horse open sleigh.
Yeah.
Jingle
Thanksgiving
bells go
song.
on the sleigh.
Yeah.
That's why it becomes Christmas.
I thought that was
I
fascinating.
drive that thing all the way through the holidays. I love
So,
it.
you know, that is the only Christmas song that is acceptable to listen to the day after Halloween. All the rest you have to wait until the day after Thanksgiving, right?
Not in my sleigh. All year round.
All year round Christmas song. So that's enough of our, you guys get the idea. How's our chocolate doing over there? We're just adding the chocolate.
And
Coconut oil is melted.
there we go.
Chocolate is in the double boiler. We're going to set our food processor back up, because we're going to use that for our buckwheat pudding again. We don't even really need to wash it because similar ingredients are going right in, so we're just going to leave it that way, which if you were making both of these for a Christmas gathering, you could save some dishes and do the exact same thing. Right. These are both great recipes to make a little bit ahead of time. Obviously the Buckeyes would keep for a few days, but the chocolate mousse also would be fine to make a day ahead of time. So if you're having a little get together for Christmas and want a light dessert, it would be a great option. All right, so those are melting. That looks awesome. We're going to put little toothpicks into our amaranth balls. The other neat thing about amaranth, I've always thought myself that quinoa is the only plant-based, or the only grain that's a complete protein, I guess. But actually amaranth is considered to be a complete protein as well. So
Lots of amino acids.
yeah, all the amino acids. Santa knows what he's talking about. You know a thing or two about food, Santa. So
You don't get to look like this without it.
So you just dip, and I'm just going to do a little bit, but you dip the bottom in the chocolate and then just set it aside. And actually I'm finding it easier because the toothpick isn't sticking since they're not cold. I'm finding it easier just to use my hands and just kind of roll them around in there. Take them out. So you get the idea, but there's our chocolate covered buckwheat. Or no, not buckwheat, amaranth. Getting my ancient grains confused. Our chocolate covered amaranth. Better Buckeye balls. Okay, let's set these aside somewhere. All right, let's get going with this pudding. All right, so we're just going to put all of our pudding into the food processor. Is it pretty cool, or is it still kind of warm?
Seems to be cool.
Cool enough. So somebody also mentioned, and I haven't had time to play with this recipe at all any more than what I have, but somebody mentioned to me that this actually looks like a no-bake cookie batter. So if somebody wants to spend some time adding some different ingredients and making it into a no-bake cookie, let me know. So we're going to give that a whirl in the food processor. And you want it nice and smooth. And it should get pretty smooth. Smooth. We're going to grab another bowl here. I'm going to grab our whipped topping. How's that look? Let's give it one more whirl. And I guess we do have some extra peanuts in there, but. Also, a high-speed blender, like I have a Ninja Chef at home or like a Vitamix, something like that, a really high-speed blender would also work really well for this recipe to get it really, really smooth. All right, we'll call that good. And I'm just going to pour that into a bowl because we want to make sure that we're folding in our whipped cream. Oh, goodness. Okay. I'll set this aside.
It does look smooth.
Yeah. Definitely. It looks and tastes like chocolate mousse, but with the benefit of some ancient grains. All right. I'm going to use a clean one here because I want to save a little bit of our whipped topping to use on the top. And so this you want to be very careful with. You don't want to stir it in so that the whipped cream like breaks down. You just kind of want to fold it in so it stays nice and light and fluffy. And if I were at home, I might let this cool even just a little bit further, but okay. And you don't even have to, sometimes it's pretty if you can see a little bit of the white blended in there. So I'm just gonna pour this into our little cups. And you can get creative here. Use like champagne glasses or like a pretty cup to put your chocolate mousse to make the presentation your own. And then we're just gonna top it off with a little bit of whipped cream. Which if you have like a little one that squeezes out pretty whipped topping, that would be probably ideal.
Canned whipped topping?
Yeah. Or they have it like in a little piping bag in the catering department. So they, you can see how they piped it on and it looks so beautiful. So obviously just putting it on like that, you're not gonna get there. And then to top it off, we don't have any right now, but you can see in this one, they put some crushed candy canes. Oh my gosh, Santa saved the day. Awesome. You know what? We're just gonna take it and we're not even gonna crush it. We're just gonna set it right in there. And there's our buckwheat chocolate mousse with our peppermint candy cane.
Looks delicious.
So we made 2 recipes today for a healthy holiday, our creamy buckwheat chocolate mousse and our better Buckeye balls with amaranth. So thank you so much, Santa, for joining me today to make our delicious recipes. And
I'm excited.
Yes.
Try them.
Absolutely. I can't wait to dig in as well.
Are your children going to leave these for me for
Yes.
Christmas?
We will make sure that you have buckwheat pudding and better Buckeyes instead of the traditional sugar cookies this year.
Okay.
So.
I won't need a bigger belt at that rate. Thank you very much for having me, Andrea.
It was so good to work with you again. This is my favorite day of the year. I tell my kids this is the day I get to work with Santa. So thanks for joining me.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.